Oi! What is up, everyone? Welcome to the first episode in a new mini-series that I'm doing on how to build your career as an independent artist. These topics are sourced primarily from questions I get from clients and from social media. It always ends up being like the same 8 or 10 questions. And I get it. It makes perfect sense because, you know, there's not really a manual on how to build your career. So I'm kind of going to attempt to make a mini manual, if you will. So anyway, these 8 or 10 episodes are going to end up being the first episodes in my new podcast, which will change formats when it actually switches to the podcast. It'll be an interview style podcast. But these first 8 or 10 episodes are just going to be primarily focused on how to build your career as an independent artist. And so if you want notifications of these videos, if you want to be notified when they come out, and all the future episodes of the podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, I'd really appreciate if you hit the subscribe and hit the little bell icon, so that way you actually get notified when I drop a video so you don't miss any information. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Colt Capperrune and Facebook at Colt Capperrune and coltcapperrune.com. It's all the same stuff. Enough about that. How to get a manager / booking agent. I figured I could roll these into one video because they're very much the same thing in terms of my opinion on how you should go about acquiring them and what they do, like how their jobs operate and how they make their money they're very similar. So I think that how they make their money is a good place to start. I think if I can get you into the mindset, you as an artist, if I can get you into the mindset of how managers and booking agents operate and how they make their living, I think it'll be much easier for you to understand how you can get one. So, how they make their money. Managers will typically take 10 or 15% of your total career. Some managers are a little bit different. Some managers are going to take 10 or 15% of a piece of your career. Booking agents are going to take 10 to 15%. This is usually across the board. They almost always fall between 10 and 15%. I've seen 12%, I've seen 14%, I've seen 15%, I've seen 10%. So it usually falls within that range. A booking agent is going to take somewhere between 10 and 15% of the money that you make at shows, of your gross income from shows. And so an important thing about this, one of the important things to remember, I think, when looking for a booking agent or a manager is being conscious of the fact that that's how they make their money. And so let's like look at an example. Let's say you as an artist are making $100,000 a year. That's a pretty successful artist in the grand scheme of things from bottom to top. Most independent artists wish they could make $100,000 a year. So, but we're going to use that because it's easy numbers because I'm not very good at math because I do music. Anyway, so let's say that you as an artist, you make $100,000 a year. Well, your manager is going to take 10 to 15% of that. Let's say 10% for the ease of the math. Because again, you know, I do music. 10% of $100,000 is only $10,000. And so this manager that you want, this person that you want to help you, they have to pay their bills. And so, you know, I'm in Nashville. Nashville's not the cheapest place to live in the country by any stretch of the imagination, but it's also not the most expensive place to live. And most places in the country, not most, there is nowhere in the country that you can live off of $10,000 a year. So if you're a legitimately successful artist that's making $10,000 or $100,000 a year, and your manager's only making $10,000 a year off of you, that's never going to be enough for them to live off of. And a good manager, the managers you actually want to work with, and this is so important, the managers you actually want to work with are the ones that are professionals, that are actually making a living off of this. So that means one of two things. You, as an artist, either got to make way more money, like 4 times that amount, in order to give a manager a living wage, or they have to split their time, their attention, and their efforts between you and multiple other artists. Or they have to have a day job, or they have to have something else going on that makes them money, which is the same difference where, it's going to take time and energy and effort away from you as an artist that they are managing. So, and the same thing goes with booking agents. Booking agents make their money from the shows that you play. So, and that all comes from ticket sales. Excuse me. That all comes from ticket sales, or, whatever your guarantee is at the club, if you're at the club level. So let's say that, for the ease of the math, music, let's say that you make $1,000 at a show. Well, that only gives your booking agent $100 at 10%. So if you're playing 3 nights a week, they're making $300 a week off of you. They can't possibly pay their bills with that. So you either need to make way more money, or they need to work with multiple artists. And so hopefully what I'm trying to do is I want to get you in the mindset and how to think about how to be valuable to these people, because that's really what it's all about. They can love you. They can love you as a person. They can love you as an artist. They can love your music. But if you're not valuable to managers and booking agents, and this mindset, this approach goes into every facet: how to get shows from promoters and clubs, how to get on festivals, how to get a record deal, this concept, this mindset, that's the reason why this is episode number 1, because this mindset sets you up to understand how to position yourself to be valuable to everyone else in the industry who could potentially help you. So you either have to make way more money, back to the booking agent thing. You're playing for $1,000 a night, which is not great money, but it's not terrible money at the beginning level for an independent artist. You either have to play, 6 nights a week, and that's not even a great living for a booking agent at all. $600 a week before taxes and expenses. Or they have to work with multiple artists. And usually what you find with booking agents is they work with a whole slew of artists. So that's kind of how they make their money. And that's really how that works. Managers, a good manager, let's keep talking about booking agents actually for a second. A good booking agent is going to help you book shows. They're going to book shows for you. I shouldn't say help you, because that's not what they do. They're going to book shows for you. They are going to help route your tours. A good booking agent, which is what you want, is going to set your dates up so that way they fall in a line and they're not spaced too far apart, and you're not in Boise, Idaho for a night and then 3 days later in Charlotte, North Carolina with no shows in between. So a good booking agent will handle all of that. A good manager. The best managers that I've worked with a ton of artists over the years. And I was an artist and in bands myself once upon a time. A good manager is going to be involved in just about everything that you do. They're going to help coach the direction of the band or you as an artist. I mean, down to like wardrobe and like stage presence and like how to perform and put on a good show and handling all the logistics and all of the paperwork and all the contracts and a good manager is going to handle everything, really, pretty much everything for you, which is exactly why it's probably why you're watching this video, because most independent artists, since there's not like a real roadmap from point A to point B, there's not like really the same path that works for any two people. It's very common for independent artists to not understand how to further their career, which is part of why I'm doing this mini series. A huge passion of mine is helping develop artists. I do some artist development. This is not a sales pitch. I just love helping artists get from wherever they are to the point where they make a living from their music. That's a legitimate passion of mine. And I did used to make a living solely from playing music. And so I know how that works and I know how to do that. And there were a whole lot of things that I wish someone would have been around to tell me along my path when I was figuring out how to do that. And so I just feel like if I'm not passing this on to someone else, that I'm not doing my part. And so anyway, that was a rabbit hole. Anyway, so let's get back to it. I have worked with tons and tons as a producer and as a mix engineer and as a session guitar player. I have worked with tons of artists and with tons of bands who have managers. And this is I think this is pretty important too. It sucks that I have to say this. I would say that 50% of the projects I have worked on where there was a manager involved, it was a worse experience for myself and for the artist, whether they realized it or not, because there was a mediocre or subpar manager involved. And this kind of, we're on our way to exactly like step by step how to get a good manager and how to get a good booking agent. But I want people to realize that managers and booking agents don't solve your problems as an artist. They're not a magic key for how to open doors for you. They're not going to further your career necessarily. So if you're looking for a manager and if you're looking for a booking agent because you think they're going to create opportunities for you that you don't understand how to create yourself, nothing could be further from the truth. That's just not how this works. Managers and booking agents come in and pick up the slack when you have no more minutes in the day to work. That's how that works. But we're going to get to more on that later. The bad managers and the bad booking agents. And when I say bad, I mean from like average down. Because even the average managers and the average booking agents, you would be better off just doing it yourself. And I really mean that. I don't say that lightly. It's not something I'm just throwing out there. The average managers make things harder for you and make extra steps in every single part of the process of your career. And again, when I say bad, I'm talking just average. Just an average manager, you'd be better off doing it yourself. So, how do you get a good manager? There's a few ways. One is dumb luck. There are instances out there, and these people are the luckiest people on the performance side of the music industry. There are people out there who just had a friend, just met the right person, just had a childhood friend that they grew up with, that was passionate about the industry and about management or artist development or whatever, in the same way that you who's watching probably was about being an artist and songwriting. And you guys create a team and you stick together and you build your career together. That happens. It's not common. It's certainly not, less than 1% of people, this is a situation they find themselves in. If you are lucky enough to have that person that is just a badass of a manager or a badass booking agent, and they create no headaches for you whatsoever, hold on to them as long as you possibly can. To a lot of independent artists who have only ever had one manager, the hard thing is, it's hard to see from the other side of the industry what your manager is doing. While your manager might be great to you, they could simultaneously be creating problems on the other side with processes and stuff. So just because a manager is great to you and is nice to you doesn't necessarily mean they're a great manager. So anyway, the second way, here's how I tell everyone to get a manager. I believe in this wholeheartedly. I have developed artists to do this exact thing, and it has worked over and over and over. I did this thing. Here is how I think is the number one, even though this is example 2, I could have done a better job planning that out. Even though this is example 2, this is the number 1 most important way to get a manager, in my opinion. Remember when we talked earlier about how you want to position yourself in a way that you are valuable to these people because of how they make their money, because they have to pay their bills. The best way to get a manager is to position yourself in a way, grow your career yourself, which again, we're going to have a whole lot more videos down, like I'm going to drop one of these a week, and we're going to dig more into how to develop your career and how to build your following. But so make sure you subscribe. That was good. I didn't even plan that and work that in that way. Grow your following and build your career to the point where they see you as a success, like a financially viable option. I cannot put that any other way. That is hands down the best way, because what you get at that point, when you do that, when you approach it this way, you get the opportunity to work with good managers and good booking agents, legitimate professionals in the industry who know what they're doing and who are not going to dick you around. Not that just because you have a successful one doesn't mean that they won't screw you over. But when you position yourself in a way where you are a financially viable option to these people, you can acquire a good agent, and I think that that's important. So the way that I develop artists and the way that I like to look at this and the way that I like to frame this conversation is you get up at 8 a.m. and you start working at 8:30 on your career, on your music, whatever it is, booking shows, putting your band together, whatever it is that you're doing, because it's a little different for every single artist. You get up at 8 a.m. At 8:30, hammer down. At 10 or 11 or 12 at night, you stop working. And you do that 6 days a week, 7 days a week. And you do that day in and day out. And if you do that, if you put in those kind of hours, you will get places with it. You ask the right questions. How do I get this show? How do I put this band together? How do I write a better song? And these are all things that I'm going to try to cover in future videos. You get up every day and you put in the work and you work. And when the workload, this is a super important thing that most artists that want a manager, they get wrong. When your workload is greater than the minutes you have in the day to work, when there are no more minutes in the day to work, a good manager will come in and will pick up that slack. That's really what a manager does, is they come in and they pick up the slack and take care of the things that you don't have time to take care of. And the reason why this is not a popular thing, I get it. You probably watched the video this far and are like, oh man, I thought he was going to tell me how to get a manager. And I am. I promise you, this is the best way to get a good one, because anything less than a good one is not worth having. I promise you that much. I promise. Anything less than a great manager is not worth having. The artists that I have worked with that had great managers, they made everything easier and they made everything smoother and they made just the whole interaction and everything that happened seamless. That's what a great manager does. An average manager does nothing. And a bad manager makes your whole life difficult. So, I said this is the second way, even though it was the number one way. So I still got one more way. And this is not guaranteed that, let me back up for a second. Same with the booking agent, okay? When you position yourself in a way where, you're making $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a show, which is because you've grown your following and you've gotten your music in front of people. You can sell tickets in whatever city you happen to be playing in. When you get to the point where you're worth that much as an artist, because you can bring that many people to the show, remember, demand, I could do a whole video on this. Demand determines your worth, not your talent. You could be the best artist on planet Earth, and if no one will pay to see you play, you're not worth getting paid to play. Just as a general principle, that's a super in-depth topic that I'm going to go over very shortly, possibly the next video. Anyway, that's how you get yourself in a position to have a great booking agent that books shows for you. You grow your following to the point where you're making, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a show. And now that 10% of $5,000 a show, that's real serious for an agent. Now they're making $500 every time you play. You play 3 dates a week at $5,000. That booking agent just made $1,500 a week. Now you're talking about a real sustainable living, and someone who's a professional can justify dedicating all of their time to booking you. And so again, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, getting in that mindset of how to position yourself to be valuable, monetarily valuable to managers and booking agents and labels and all of the things, all of the people in the industry. It's the most important mindset to get into if you want to grow your career and be successful in the music business. It's called music business, not music art. So everything, all my content, everything that I do, all my developmental stuff, anything that I put out on social media, I'm constantly dropping tips on my Facebook and on Insta stories. I'm constantly putting out information, and 100% of it is driven towards how to grow your career in the business, because that's just part of it. So anyway, the other way, the last way, which is probably actually the least common way, and I don't suggest this, is if you happen to be someone who's independently wealthy, you had an invention, you ran a business and sold it off, maybe your parents are loaded and have tons of money, you could probably just simply pay a flat rate to a manager and to a booking agent to handle your stuff. Even if you happen, which all of us would love to be in that situation, and almost none of us are, but even if you happen to be in that situation and you have the financial freedom to basically buy a manager or a booking agent, the reason why I don't suggest doing that and still doing it the way that I previously discussed is because the chances of actually getting a really true professional, it's not as likely, even if you have the money to just flat out pay someone. I have the feeling that most people that you might be able to hire in that way will take you less seriously because of it, because you're not actually organically growing your career. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe on the socials and on YouTube, and keep up to date on these videos that I'm dropping, because I really want to help you, and I really want to help artists navigate this new music era, where I actually gave a talk on that, how to make a living in the modern music era. I think it's really important because the music industry is changing so fast. Independent artists are kind of the future, but you can only make it if you really understand how to navigate that world. And so I'm trying my best to break this down for you, and I hope it works. I hope it helps someone. Feel free to share it with your friends. Feel free to tag someone that you think needs to hear it. I genuinely appreciate all of your guys' interaction on the social medias and on YouTube, and I've largely built my career on social media. I wouldn't be able to do this without artists like you watching. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. That's it. We'll talk soon. Hope you see the next video. Peace.